Good afternoon. We all know exactly what's on all your mind. Lunch. Unfortunately, we're in the middle of the lunch session. Not our fault, not anyone's fault, I guess. So we'll straight away get into the discussion. Look, we are going to be talking about, future paradigms in education. Now, somewhere I think the word international came from the international schools that were set up somewhere in the 50s, mostly to take care and, cater to people who are traveling between countries, between continents, right? Their children needed some kind of a level playing field in education, and hence children of diplomats, children of NGO workers, children of employees with global corporations. I think these are the ones who kept moving around countries, and hence international schools were set up. That was a time when, we had to, people had to go to different countries to experience the culture. But today, the world has come to us, thanks to social media, thanks to the platform of internet. And hence the whole mechanism has become very different. So now we've got schools within every country which caters to international outcomes and paradigms. So I think the topic therefore is very pertinent, exploring future paradigms. Today in fact we have a child who's getting free education in a municipality school somewhere in Dhule, Maharashtra, who has a smartphone in his hand and who can actually explore. So that's the world that we're living in. The unfortunate part is that we just have 25 minutes to discuss this very important topic, and it's an intellect-packed panel. So it'll be really not very fair on any of them because we are not going to give them much time. Among us, we've got almost, I think, 6 schools, 8 schools actually, 2 of them which are not in the country, they're outside the shores of India. We've got an organization which promotes reading, and we of course are missing a university. One of our universities, Sobit University, is supposed to represent. He's not here today, unfortunately. So we'll straight away get into the discussion. I'm going to really play a good, host and straight away go to the ones who are outside India and ask them a few questions. In fact, I'd like to start with you, ma'am, Dr. Aisha. I think what you've done, I think it's outstanding. If I were to start talking about what you've done, I think we lose about 3-4 minutes there, or more than that. But one thing which we picked up is the experience that you've had in coaching, leadership, training, and I think almost about 74,000 hours of experience, and you've nearly dealt with more than 50,000 adults and youth adults. And obviously you must have seen a pattern. So we're very keen to really see from your lens, what is this global citizen all about? What is this meaning of global citizen, and what have you picked up from your learnings?
Thank you very much, first of all, Mr. Menon, giving me the opportunity to be the first one to speak today. And thank you very much for audience, for your patience. I know it's lunchtime, as Mr. Menon said, but we'll try to make it as succinct and as, interesting as possible. I think when you talk about global citizenship, I think UAE, where I am working, it looks at it as, people or the youth power who want to learn about the global issues, the most challenging issues, and what to do to solve those issues. I think that's one thing we are looking at as a country. And second thing, I think we are very much into, you spoke about 75,000 hours. I'm a person who learned that, over the last 15 years, data is the big thing. I think if at all I have to see patterns or recognize what's happening, the way world is moving towards, we talk 21st century and we talk about, development and skills and blah, blah, blah. But I think data is one thing which we need to be focusing on. And that's the reason why I focus a lot on numbers, even in things that I do personally, because that gives me those patterns that you're talking about. So we are big time on data, and that is what pushes UAE towards its vision. Now, another thing is vision alignment. UAE has a vision, which it has for its country, and then that vision is driven by a theme every year. And schools are expected to work around that theme. So if you're looking at one thing that would drive anything at all in India, it has to be a robust framework. That's one of the most important and the best things, my colleague here will agree with me, happen to us is having a wonderful framework where whether you're from Indian curriculum, whether you're from American or British or Iranian or any other Finnish curriculum, you have one framework that drives the vision of the country.
Wow.
And that's what's lacking, I think after Singapore, UAE is the second country in the world currently which has a wonderful framework. And I request all the leaders who are sitting here to take a look at these two frameworks. That will give you a perspective into how we should be leading our countries in terms of education. I mean, the panel before us, Menon, who was sitting here with all the respected honorable ministers, they were talking something basic, and that was really heartbreaking to hear. We are talking something breaking, something basic in the age of artificial intelligence, 21st century competencies and skills. We are talking about these basic things in a country which gave us zero, which changed the way we look at the algorithms, right, that drive AI today.
Right.
Isn't it? So I think global citizen, or the panel, the future paradigm shift that we're talking about, is inventing the future. That is the current theme that UAE is focusing on. Invent your future.
Invent your future.
Exactly. I think that's what has been happening from times immemorial. If the wheel was not invented, we wouldn't have the machines that we had, I think we need to be risk takers. We need to be looking at future the way then those people. We need to bring in philosophy. We have heard of the geocentric theories and the heliocentric theories, right? People laughing at these people, scientists and philosophers, when they gave these theories, but they proved people wrong. So somewhere you have to start working on this agenda of inventing your future.
Right.
And I think Dubai is taking a lead in many areas. We have Dubai Fair is happening there. We are coding. We heard people talking about COBOL and Pascal. We know Python is the most loved language right now. And we have Python being taught to even kindergartners.
Okay.
And coding is an area which is open to all, irrespective. So age is no barrier in UAE. You can come up with any innovation, any invention, and that's it.
So something like a coding would be a framework that will come from as a country framework, and then it spirals down to the schools.
Absolutely.
Right. In fact, I'd just like to move to Mr. Mahajan. I think you hold a school. I think it's a traditional school that you seem to have transformed, and it's got more than 13,000 students, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the ones who come out of school go to multiple countries.
Yeah.
So would you be able to just align to what Dr. Aisha said, and would you agree with that?
Yeah. So in my school, there are, as our moderator has already told, 13,000 students, 695 teachers, and overall the staff is somewhat around 1,400. Come to the topic, the future paradigms of a globally acclaimed school. What we are doing in UAE, we are answering those questions which are yet to be asked. We are training the students for those technologies which are yet to be invented. Now you will be surprised at what magic we are doing. We are not doing anything. There are 2-3 points which we are highlighting and focusing. That is, we are training them for meta skills. Meta skill is what? Learning about how to learn, thinking about how to think, understanding about how to understand. Because whatever they learn in 12th standard, when they complete their graduation, that technology also gone and that curriculum also gone. So then how they will make that balance? That is one thing we are doing. Another thing is, as she has already explained that thing, a very good regulatory framework. So good monitoring, that is the only difference between India and UAE. Here there are a lot of regulations, but a quality regulations, we are going through it, and then we are doing it thoroughly. That is one thing. Second thing, we are focusing on disciplined mind, the theory which is given by Howard Gardner. So disciplined mind, again, for the mastery learning, we are training the students, we are making them independent. The more focus in the UAE is on giving the complete academic ownership to the child. Keeping less on your shoulder. Keep the responsibilities on your shoulder, and we are giving the complete ownership, academic ownership to the child. And to my surprise, the outcomes are like anything. While transforming my school from the historical traditional school to the techno-savvy schools, there were a lot of hurdles, but with this concept, giving full autonomy to the teachers and keeping the responsibility on the shoulders of the leaders, second line of leaders, we have achieved a lot. So that is another thing. Third thing which we are very good in UAE is risk-taking. Each and every child, each and every teacher is taking the risk, going beyond, because our framework is honoring that risk-taking concept. With that, we are fulfilling the 21st century skills also. At the same time, UAE is the country where we have a happiness index ministry. So we are worried about the happiness. We are worried about the happiness index of the school. So we are, with the metacognition skills, we are training the students how they can be happy under the academic stress, peer
Sir,
stress,
this even
parental
Delhi is
stress.
brought. Delhi has also brought happiness curriculum
Yeah.
in their schools.
So by that we are enhancing their happiness index. So that under the metacognitive skills, what they are thinking about themselves, how they will be happy, what are the ways which make them happy, how they learn, when they learn, and what way they learn in a better way. So we are focusing on these future paradigms, meta skills, metacognitive skills, giving them the full academic ownership, and the teachers are working as a scaffolders. What is the scaffolding? We are creating a productive struggle in the mind of the student, whatever the subject is, and with that productive struggle, we are boosting them. They are at this level, they are going to that level. All their productive struggle converted into the opportunities, and it's become their strength, and the change is happening.
So, Mr. Mahajan, I have one question.
Yeah.
You have been in India also.
Yes.
And you've also been in UAE,
Yes.
in Sharjah. Now, your school has got a lot of Indian children.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you a little sensitive question.
Yeah.
Do you see a difference in the children, in the Indian children who are studying in your school in Sharjah
Yeah.
versus the children who study in the schools in India? Do you see a difference?
Yes, the main difference is the Indian students are under the parental bossing. They are under the teacher's bossing. But the foreigner students, they are beyond that. They discuss with their parent, please, I have to do this and I will do this. I don't want to become a doctor, I don't want to become an engineer. I want to become a dancer, I want to become an artist, I want to do that thing. And they are successful in that. That's the one difference. Second difference is, the Indian students are too much curriculum driven. While the foreigners, the foreign students, I have near about 4 or 5 countries students, which we can really say are foreign students, because they are completely foreigner, not Indian based and gone another country. So those students, they are one step ahead in the thought process. They are ready to take the risk. They are ready to go beyond the bookish knowledge, and they are doing that thing. Right. So that is another difference. And the third and the most important difference is, those students, they are ready for anything and everything, anytime and every time, while the Indian students, they are very choosy, very moody, and they require something which is special for them, then only they will be active.
Right. You've been an Indian student.
Yeah, I'm completely an Indian student.
Okay.
With the government schools.
Right.
My parents were the retired principals, and I headed a very good, for 12 years, the Indian school, Padar.
Dr. Aisha, you are trying to say something?
I just want to add one point to what he said. I am heading a school. We have 3 curriculums. I had 3 curriculas: the Indian, the British, and the American. And we are breaking barriers even there. I don't see Indian students being any less than, them. In fact, they are, doing much better. India is already doing much better in terms of science and maths. Followed by Egyptians, followed by Sudanese. These are the nationalities. And I have about 72 nationalities in my school.
Wow.
You understand?
72.
Yes.
That's
and
wonderful.
that is another area we are focusing on. You might have all heard about emotional quotient. It's the very hot topic nowadays. The future workforce is looking for that. But now UAE is looking at another thing, DQ, that is diversity quotient.
Okay.
And we are focusing on that. For example, I would like to tell you, if I have 5 best friends, who are your 5 best friends from? So if you say all of them are Muslims, then your DQ is 0. But if I have 1 Muslim, 1 Jain, 1 Christian, 1 Hindu, 1 Sikh, my DQ is very high. Then
And you actually track that?
Sorry?
You actually track that?
We track that. As I said, it's data.
In our framework, that tracking is already there. By default,
Wonderful.
it is there.
Wonderful. In fact, I'm just reminded, you just mentioned about, the doctor, going beyond doctor and engineer. And that's when I recollect, one of our younger panelists out here, Aditi. In fact, just for the record, Aditi is the youngest here, but the school that she runs, is more than 111 years old. So that's quite a, contrast here. And you had mentioned in some of your quotes that the days of becoming an engineer and doctor are over. Now, you run a school with about 350 students.
Yes.
If a student were to come and tell you, when I grow up, I want to become a DJ,
Yes.
how would you react to that, and how does a parent react to it?
So we do have students who are DJs and tattoo artists and bikers, and we absolutely encourage it. And I agree with the struggle. You know, since yesterday I'm hearing a lot of panelists and a lot of discussions talking about, yes, we want to innovate, yes, we want to try new things, but what about the struggle with parents? You know, parents are expecting those 98% marks. But at Bilimoria, even being a legacy school, we have found that if we onboard the parents and show them that value-based education is so much more important, skill sets are important, they are accepting it. You know, it takes a lot. You have to, the amount of energy we put behind the children also needs to be put behind the parents. You know, as a residential school, maybe it's not as constant for us because we only see our parents twice or thrice a year, but it's still there. You know, it is still there. And in terms of globalization and the comparative of Indian children in India and Indian children abroad even, what I will say is all of our children across the world right now are global already. They are already global. If you talk to any child, a 10-year-old, what do you want to be when you grow up? You're not going to, you may not hear engineer or doctor. If you do, that's fine as well. But you may hear, I want to be an innovator or a YouTuber. Or you know, a bunch of other things, an environmentalist, careers that we hadn't even heard of until very recently. You know, for a 14-year-old to become an environmentalist and fight the governments of all the different nations is phenomenal, and it is happening because our children are already more globally aware than us.
Wow.
And as parents and educators and adults, we just need to accept that the world has become a smaller place and we are globalized already. We have to accept our children are 100 steps ahead of us already.
So
and
you agree with him
encourage it.
saying that parental bossing is a problem in India?
It is, but you can't discount the parents either. I think all the educators here would agree that the parents are something you cannot ignore. So, but onboarding parents is also, if as a room full of educators of diverse, you know, different ages, if we agree that we need to be more supportive of our children today and their needs, then I think parents would also agree. Right. It's just that they need to be onboarded.
Right. So Sachin, I mean, do you agree with what she's saying? Because you, I think, are also doing a lot of disruptive practices in your school. And in fact, your school is called the Gurukul. In fact, that is how India was, you know, the old schooling system in India started with this name called Gurukul. And you actually have talked about students not having bags, no school bells, and therefore no boredom. Are you saying that this is one of the routes to becoming a global citizen and for a child to really get more exposed to the global ecosystem?
Thank you, Vinesh. Well, hers is a residential school, so parental interaction is 3 times a year. We face it every day. Well, in a day school, challenges are quite different from what they are in the residential school. But yes, if you understand that what is your objective, if learning outcomes are kept in mind, and you start backward integration, you start from what is your end, and then you start planning backward, I'm sure the solution is already there. Books, no books, it is all in the mind. If a teacher decides that when I will walk into the classroom, I will ensure that my objective planned for this session is done, I'm sure she doesn't need any resource. Book, why should we confine a child to a book? Are we there to teach a book or the concept? So if the concept is in the mind, although having said this, there are 2 challenges. I'm sure it is in the mind of everybody sitting here that parents want books, homework, everyday routine, you know, that has been because they connect to the way they were taught in their school days. But let us understand, this is an era wherein earlier the changes used to take a decade, then a year, and now, you know, the changes are happening so fast. So very soon, SIMs are going to be outdated and we are moving towards eSIMs. So if the changes which are happening in the world, if we will not keep ourselves updated, imagine what kind of a skill set are we going to give to our kids. So having said this, coming to this important thing about books or no books, I guess we have been doing it for quite many years successfully. There were challenges in the beginning. Parents had a lot of apprehensions. They used to come back, but we understood it very clearly that we need to take that stakeholder into confidence. So there were lots and lots of roundtables, meetings done with the parents. They had those apprehensions, but when they saw the learning outcomes being achieved, they were with us. And now, probably, I would say, if not 100%, then at least 90 to 95% of our parent community is with us, saying that this is what is giving us a happy child.
Right, and your objective will get far better realized if we as a country have similar frameworks which are top-down, like the ones in UAE.
Well, I think what ma'am and sir was talking, it is all context-driven. No school is same. If I talk about my school, I have a limited target audience because every child is unique. Something that works in my context may not work in the context of somebody else, but yes, there are basic principles which remain same always. So yes, I quite agree with that, the DQ thing and the EQ thing, because the attention span is very less nowadays. The children have a lot of why, they question everything. I remember in my childhood, I used to have fear asking questions to my parents, but today every child, he doesn't hesitate in asking anything from the parents. So they have to have that kind of intelligence and kind of connect with the parents.
And yet, in a environment where you're saying that books should slowly fade out, and digital and so many other new initiatives take on.
Yes, yes.
We have a company called Stones to Milestones, and Amit out here, I mean, their role is to promote book reading. You actually promote kids to read books, read more and more. Now, how's that isn't there a bit of a contrast to what we are moving towards versus what you're trying to do? And again, why physical hard copy books? Why not, let's say, Kindle?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I would talk both as a parent and as an educator. That I love when my child reads a book offline. But how do I get a child interested in reading a book, to answer your question? And it may seem like an oxymoron, but it isn't, where technology forms a very important part in just creating that interest, aligning what a child is interested in, figuring out what a child's current level is, and navigating a child to where the child should be reading at. I think that's where technology plays a very important part in integrating, into the school curriculum of how a child should be reading. And I think what my fellow panelists were saying earlier, it's really amazing to see how a global citizen is aligned to data encoding, like Aisha was sharing, and also to happiness index and the emotional quotient, because these are two very, very extreme kind of paradigms to explore. And what we are delving in is somewhere in the middle, where the global citizen of tomorrow, as an organization, we think needs to find his or her own place. So that's our vision statement, where we think that reading is one common thread which helps a child achieve his or her place in the world. And I think, with that, we've been able to identify a common theme across schools, in India and also overseas, where a child is able to learn, unlearn, and just keep himself or herself abreast of what is happening in the world. I think, that's been a very, very important life skill that children have acquired, and, we continue doing that through our
All right, yeah, that sounds interesting, Amit, thanks. But, Professor Monica, I'm just coming to you. Your school is 30 years old, and you must have gone through that, that whole cycle of change. You would have been in this whole textbook, book reading phase, and now I think you yourself are promoting a big change in technology and a transformation. Is that easy for you all to do?
Absolutely. Now we have been talking about that global leadership, global citizenship, but last session we have talked about the innovation and collaboration, everything on technology. But in my opinion, that is the vision of every school is the same, to make a global leader or to make that is a good human being, and to that is the foster the integrity among all the children. So in considering the facts, that is all the time, we should think that is the technologically, we should make the global leaders we should think about the technology. But to be that is a humanity point of view, we'll talk, that is more important than nowadays. So we have been trying, rather than all the curriculum, and we have been trying to promote the values among the children. And in my opinion, that in respect of the values and the culture, the India is so rich, we should not adopt any country's values and the culture other than the India. Because our culture is so strong and so healthy that we should promote through all these things. And third point, that is called integrity. Also that is the same thing. And remember, that is the technology is required. Technology is required to promote. And for the technology, to promote the technology, that the two partners, that is a major part, that is a education system is a triangular process. That teachers, parents, and the students. So first of all, everything is possible. Make a value-based school, or that is a good leader, global leader. So we try to promote the two things. First, it is we give the priority to train all the teachers. Number one. Then the continuous parents orientation. Every weekly there is a parent orientation. Unless until parents are not oriented, and all the things cannot be possible. So whenever you are talking about the book, that is teaching the books, without books, so everything, we parents are the responsible, and we are our, then we can make the good citizen.
Right.
So that is more important. So two things, that is the parents and teachers, they should be trained and oriented all the time.
Understood.
Which that is, we take care.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's nice to hear. But the challenge sometimes that we face, and that's what I'd like to ask both you, Anuradha, and you, Anant, because both of you represent chains or schools which are fairly spread, right? I mean, I think Ryan obviously sit a triple digit in terms of number of schools, and Calorex by no means is, I think you're associated with more than 35 to 40 schools, and you've yourself got about 7 to 8 schools. How do you standardize this? I mean, it's fine to try and make a change in one ecosystem, where let's say like a Bilamoria, you have got 350 students and therefore 350 parents, or let's say a Gurukul. But how do you really do this when you have so many schools spread across the country? How do you bring in that quality and standardization in your schools?
Yeah, sure. Vinesh, thank you for that question. Yeah, we're having so many schools across the country and even outside. The uniformity in the Ryan group is made with the framework and one vision that's followed, and in fact very wonderfully followed. So even a branch of Ryan group which is in a place called Dhamtari, which maybe many of you would have not heard, it's a place in Chhattisgarh, and a school or a branch in New Delhi might have the differences, but the framework remains the same. So since I also get an opportunity to peep into these schools while I travel, it is wonderful to see that the vision is one. There would be a little difference here and there, but the basic remains the same. And I would also look for an opportunity to talk about the great ocean of technology that's coming in. And it's a must to use and empower our children to that. But how does it start at the grassroots level? As you very rightly said, that the world is coming in now. So we're not only talking about those selected children who are moving out for the education, doing well. We have wonderful cultural exchange programs, which many institutions do have. Children come in from foreign lands, stay within our schools, spend time in the classroom. They get into academic and para-academic activities and understand their ways. Our children understand theirs and they understand ours. But what is happening on day-to-day is very, very important. And that, I feel, is the teacher having a passive role, all right. It might be passive in some sense because of a lot of opportunity of the data and the information available everywhere, just not with the teacher. But I feel that the teacher plays a very, very important role in that, being a facilitator. She or he cannot take a back seat. Needs to really empower oneself, equip oneself, look into it in that classroom like ours where there are 35 to 40 children in a class. No one gets neglected. The existence of every child needs to be understood and facilitated. Sometimes I feel scared of the very good children in the class. They are so dominating. And these children prefer to stay back. So it's the responsibility of the teacher to facilitate, put forward, and also, unlike last days that teaching used to be, she should value the opinion that every child makes and understand it can be different to what she thinks. So, because our children are no more the reproducers of whatever they've learned. So I would like to say that a child who has followed 14 years of honest regime, being excellent on every parameter that the school and the society demanded, will not be the distinguished one. It has to be somebody who empowered the analysis, the analytical thinking, the innovation, the creativity, and is now ready for a personalized journey to move towards success.
Sure. The only challenge, I guess, in India is that 1.5 million schools and more than 20 crore children. That's how do you get everybody to really move to that direction is the question. So Anand, what do you, and I'm really keen to, I know we are going back into the circle, but I'm going to ask you a question once more. What do you mean by global citizen? Is he somebody who knows all languages? Is he someone who is very confident to meet all kinds of people? What's a global citizen?
I mean, I'm not saying no to what you're asking, but at the same point in time, to us, global citizen is a citizen who's ready for the global challenges, right? So if I am an Indian student, tomorrow I go to a university in California, I should be equally ready from the first day. So we make our kids ready for the upcoming life and the challenges of the life that they have to face, So we not only believe in global education, but we also believe in local values. So we infuse both the global curriculum and the local values together. See, in our system, teacher training is a very important aspect. It plays a very, very important role. We have, schools across multi-cities and various, across different, regions. So the regional requirements are quite different to each other. So first of all, you need to, when you run a group of schools, you need to first of all have a very clear understanding of what is your regional expectation. In that case, you'll have to then map it to your framework. So once you map it to your framework, you'll have to then assess as to your framework is it actually doing a dent or not, right? So number one. Number two, talking about integration of technology. Technology integration, we have been speaking for 20 years now. To what extent have we really been able to integrate technology is one thing that every school has to be, finding it out for himself or themselves. And what is the need of the hour, right? Like Java, the morning sessions, he spoke about Java. Java is a 20-year-old language, right? So Java is now gone, almost all outdated. So what is the next thing in? Like what Dr. Siddiqui said here, coding. Coding is the in thing. So coding is going to take the kids, for the next 10 years, it's going to be there. So everything involves coding. Any practical thinking algorithm is about coding. So infusing the correct technology at the right time in the right prescription is what is more important, rather than just technology integration being there.
So I just want to ask, therefore, Mrs. Manjeet, your school is in Ludhiana. You are able to do what he just mentioned? Can you, for example, inside Ludhiana, in a school, are you able to bring in the change that is happening across the globe? Are you able to bring that into Ludhiana, into your school, into your children, and to your teachers? How do you do that?
Sir, actually, from last 30 years, I am in the CBSE as a principal. And by the grace of God, I got an opportunity to work in an urban school, like a boarding school, and as well as in a rural school. In 99, we started this school in a rural area with a strength of very few students. And we got affiliation in 2006. And 2015, we got a national award from CBSE for ICT education. That is the paradigm which I adopted. Because I saw that in a rural area, the children, they have a lot of potential. But how to channelize their energy and how to take a work from their parents, because there's agriculture people, they want that our children, they must study. But lack of use in this area, the coaching centers are not there. So what we started in our school, we are giving them coaching for different competitions also. So in ICT education in 2018, when the first meeting of the HRD ministry was there in a CBSE, because that time I had some experience, because I had a diploma in computers in 2009, I took that diploma. So Mr. Vineet Joshi, the IAS, he called up me in a meeting. So he asked me, ma'am, we want to introduce these courses, and Dr. Saha, he is a part of that. So can you come up with that courses? I said, definitely I do. At that time, we can take 3 courses: information technology, information practices, web designing, multimedia, and database management, right? And that time it was very difficult to make up the mind of the parents even, on the certificate it will be written, you see, vocational education. But the time has come, time to time, the CBSE cooperated, we called the parents, and in first session, the children, they come out with the excellent result, and 80 to 90% children, they got a visa because of digital education.
And once the success comes, it just then becomes a natural.
And so later on, we took agriculture also. As the minister of this Rajasthan, he told, I saw it's an agriculture area. Why should not I take a vocational course of agriculture?
Right.
Then health and beauty, then finance management, then entrepreneurship. Then later on, I took one more subject, that is taxation.
Sure.
That is also related to it. Because I know, because I do believe every day new paradigm must be applied.
I think what we're picking up is that if you have the will from the top, I think it'll start percolating into the system.
Yes.
That's the key, right? That's what we're picking up from an example.
I do believe that everything can be done if
Right.
you have a will.
Right.
And
Right.
the approach will be scientific, the mind will be free.
Sure.
And I do believe that's my Mr. Ki happiness should be there.
Right.
Because in 2005, when Dr. Abdul APJ Kalam, he was there, he just given one article. There's an article he asked to write an article, write up on 0.3 education. So I am one of them, and my article, by the grace of the God, has been selected. So at that time, what he told in that national conference of CBSE, the teacher must challenge to the God and to the parents and to the God, give me a child for 7 years, even you cannot take the smile of my child.
Wonderful, wonderful. On that,
Thank you, one and all.
On that note, I think that's a very apt way of, I know everybody's brimming to say more, but we have a bit of a constraint. I don't want to really summarize this conversation because it'll take away a little bit of time and it'll take away the punchlines of what everybody has said here. But I think we have such a diverse panel out here and everyone has mentioned some very, very interesting facts and thoughts on the future of, the paradigm change that one needs to